Okay, welcome back from the break. All right, we have really covered a tremendous amount of information. I really appreciate your attention and your questions and your discussion. You did a really good job um, grasping the concept of protection and all the aspects that are associated with that. So, what's the next step? It's transferring the knowledge you've gained right now into action. And that is about strategy. And strategy connects all you have learned to date to create the DNA that I call a protection culture. Now, that requires a philosophy. And the philosophy I'm recommending you grasp and take into your hearts and minds is Sun Tzu said, the art of war teaches us to rely not on the likelihood of the enemy's not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him, not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. Now, if you really think about that, what he is saying is not so much the fight or the battle, but the fact that if you're ready and someone comes and sees you're ready, they may choose not to attack you. You have to assume they will, but they may see that you're too well prepared and decide it's not worth their effort to attack your position because you seem unassailable. You seem like somebody that, as a criminal looks at you, would not be a really good victim for them. There'd be too much risk involved in this situation because of your readiness. And that's what all of those things that we talked about earlier provide for you. So here's what we know so far from what we've learned. You know what constitutes a suspicious behavior and how to link it to threat, and you know the criminal's method of operation. And you know in their modus operandi that selecting the victim, gathering information, observing the victim is where you will have the greatest exposure potential to be in contact with that criminal. And it gives you the greatest opportunity to minimize being a victim because they can see that you're ready, you're unassailable, so to speak. So, and we also now have a clear and definitive protection philosophy that we can develop all our strategies and activities around. So, let's start understanding personal protection strategy. I think first you need to understand protection assumes you are accountable and the action centers around you surviving. Security relies on things like CCTV cameras, guards, alarm systems, and those kinds of things. They're sold to you on the perspective that they are the solution, where you, protection assumes you are the solution. And security is often focused on catching criminals, and protection is primarily focused on stopping criminals before they even have an opportunity to take advantage of you. So I hope, well, okay, I have a question here that says, don't you need both? Yes, you do. But remember, that's what I said. Security is critical to your protection strategy. The difference here is in the philosophy. When if you focus on security as your solution, then the more cameras you have, the more alarm, the bigger and better alarm system you have. This is going to protect criminals from coming in. But criminals I talk to already know about these things. They know how to disarm them. They know how much time, if there's a camera, they know how much time before law enforcement's going to be there so they can plan around that. So, in and of itself, the security doesn't necessarily prevent a criminal from coming. Okay. It in, where in fact you may create certain protection strategies that can prevent someone from coming in the first place. Um, so if you think about this relative to, say, a school systems, some school systems may need certain security apparatus. Other systems may not, depending on where they are, the economic factors surrounding them, the type of students that are in the classrooms. You may have to have different kinds of things, and you want you making that decision. You don't want to be driven by security experts or someone like that. You want the people who are in charge of the safety and security of themselves and the children in that school to make those decisions and to develop the plan that's right for that school. The other thing I want you to remember is that protection is holistic. Why? Because you're holistic. You don't live in one spot all the time. So there is a protection need in everywhere you go, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your work, whether it's when you're traveling and you're going on vacation, whether your kids are going to school and what's going on in the school in terms of protection, even when you go to gym, concerts you may go to. You don't have to have a gun or a violent crime for something to be a threat. The concert that recently had 50,000 people force themselves up to the front of the concert and killed some people during that concert is a real good example of a threat. So concerts is a threat, like we were talking about earlier. It's a situational or environmental threat, but it is a threat. And you need to consider those things when you're planning to go to a concert, or if you're going to a girls' night out. Not so much whether you're in the club, although what would happen? Do you know the exits of that club if somebody came in the front door and started shooting it up, like they had in Orlando, Florida? The problem with that is those doors were locked that you could exit. They had them locked down so the alarms wouldn't go off accidentally. So you have to watch that kind of stuff. These are all pre-planned things. You have to think about all these, but not just these things. You have to think about going between all those things. So travel routes can actually be threats if you do the same thing at the same time every day, day in and day out. Criminals or kidnappers or even terrorists can plot things based on your travel routes that may be successful in your kidnapping or to assassinate you, or for whatever reason they may have their goal to be. Remember, we told you they have the advantage. You will never know when any of this is going to happen. But that's why this idea of Sun Tzu's being unassailable is so important. Secondly, strategy isn't scary, folks. I want you to, people hear strategy and they start going off the wall. It's something consultants do to provide a lot of complexity. And in some cases, I've seen that happen just so they get more billable hours. But generally speaking, it's not scary. It's simple. You do it when you plan your meals. You have a meal that you want for the week, all week long. You have a meal plan for the week. You look at that and it's based against healthy food that you want, what they like, various standards of quality that they want. You then take a look at those meals and you just look at the recipes and decide what kind of food that you need, and then you go out and you look in your pantry and you say in refrigerator and you say, what do I have, what I don't have? You make a grocery list. You take that list, you go to the grocery store, you compare the lists before you go to the grocery store to your budget, and then you go out and you go shopping. You bring all that food back and you cook your meals, and they're all great. Everybody praises you for that, and you've stayed within your budget. Ladies and gentlemen, that's strategy. Whether you're doing it for a meal or whether you're creating an international marketing plan for a corporation, the concepts are basically the same. You do it all the time. You do it for your meals. You do it when you're doing your financial planning. You do it when you're planning your vacation. Strategy is not scary.